What up, guys? Welcome to Cage Connor. I am Connor. It's gonna be my top 10 UFC Fighters video of 2025. We already did our top 10 UFC events of 2025. I'm working on the top 10 fights of UFC 2025 video. So this will be one of the three of the top 10 of 2025 videos that I'm doing. I didn't want to really do more than that. I didn't want to really do knockouts or submissions. I talked about that in my last video a little bit, but I just kind of feel like if you're clicking on one of those videos, you want to see the knockouts, you want to see the submissions, and I can't show you those. Not only because I think I would get copyrighted or whatever on YouTube or and UFC would come after me. I don't really know what would happen there, but also I can't edit for shit, so I'm not adding that in there. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Before we get into the top 10 fighters here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video. I would appreciate it very much. All right, let's get into the whole thing here then, guys. First one first, I want to do some honorable mentions. Some fighters that didn't quite make the list. My honorable mentions will be let's start with Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria, of course, only had one fight in 2025, which is the reason why he's not in the top 10 list. If he would have even got one more in there, he sure as shit would have been on the list because he did become a double champion this year. I debated putting him on here just for becoming a double champion. I mean, that is one of the most impressive things you can do in the UFC. But nonetheless, I guess technically he didn't even really become a double champion because he vacated the belt. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. He won a belt in the second division. Very impressive. One of the hardest things to do in MMA, period. So I debated putting him on the top 10 list, but I think he would have. He consider him your honorable number 11. Hamza Chimaev, similar situation, except he didn't become a double champion. He only fought once in the year 2025, unfortunately. An impressive performance against Drake Duplessis, in which he captured UFC middleweight gold. But nonetheless, didn't make the list. Also, that fight was boring as shit. Ian Gary. Ian Gary is the one where there's a fighter on my top 10 list where he has higher ranked wins in the same weight class. Ian Gary does, and he probably should be above that fighter on a top 10 list. But Ian Gary's performances just weren't all that impressive to me. He looked good in both the Carlos Prates fights and the Bilal Muhammad fights, but no finishes in either of those. And then the whole stumbling at the end of the Carlos Prates thing, the Carlos Prates fight where he almost got knocked out in the fifth round, was enough to kick him out of the top 10 for me. Plus, I just don't really like Ian Gary, if I'm being honest. And then Nasruddin Imavov is another fighter who I highly considered putting on the top 10 list. 2 wins in 2025 just weren't the most. I mean, the knockout win over Izzy is great, early stoppage, but nonetheless, it's still a great win. And then the Kyle Baralho fight, in which he won that fight by decision. Also, just not the most exciting of a fight. It was okay. He did what he had to do to get the job done. But nonetheless, not enough for me to put Nasruddin Imavov on the list. And those are my honorable mentions. There's probably way more you guys could think of that could be considered on a top 10 list. There's a lot of good fighters in the UFC, so I'm sure some of you will not like what is on my top 10, but nonetheless, let's get into it with my number 10. Number 10, Walter Cortez Acosta, a fighter with a loss in 2025, which is very rare. I do count losses pretty heavily against you if you have one in the year. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about being the best fighter of that year, you got to count the loss pretty heavily. But Waldo Cortez Acosta went 4-1 in the UFC in 2025, so that's 4 wins. That's 5 times he's fought in 2025. His first win came against Ryan Spann. I believe this happened sometime back in March. Yeah, back in March on the Martin Vittori vs. Rome Delite 2 card. I believe this is inside the Apex. Solid win for Waldo Cortez Acosta there, getting a big knockout win over Ryan Spann. He then moved on to beat Sergey Spivak in a somewhat entertaining fight. It wasn't the worst fight in the world. I wouldn't technically put it in that category of heavyweight stinker fights that we often get, but it was a good fight. Solid performance for Waldo Cortez Acosta here. And then the back end of the year is where Waldo Cortez Acosta really starts heating up. Of course, we do have to talk about the loss to Sergey Pavlovich that he had back in August on the Johnny Walker card, in which that was somewhere in China. He did lose this fight. Didn't look all that impressive there. But at least he didn't get finished, which Sergey Pavlovich used to be that guy that used to just get a fuck ton of finishes, and everyone was kind of terrified of him. doesn't seem like we're in that era anymore. Sergey Pavlovich is coming off a couple decision wins. Nonetheless, he did lose this fight, but it was a close fight. And I think with a few adjustments, Waldo Cortez Acosta could win that fight. We then move on to the Ante Delija fight, which was fucking awesome. Ante Delija versus Waldo Cortez Acosta went down on November 1st, 2025. This was inside the Apex. And Ante Delija, who's a training partner of Tom Aspinall, which is important to this story, uh, accidentally eye poked Waldo Cortez Acosta and thought he got the TKO win, but and it was looking like it was well on his way to be a TKO win for Ante Delija. And then the eye poke happens, and we like think the fight is over, but it's not really over. And Waldo Cortez Acosta takes all 5 minutes to clear the shit out of his eye, comes back out, and then knocks Ante Delija out in the first round. It was awesome. It was incredible, especially if you go back to earlier interviews in that week. Delija was talking about he doesn't understand how Cyril Gahn can eye poke anyone, or how eye pokes happen in MMA in general. And then he ends up eye poking someone in the fight. It's just a hilarious story, a hilarious fight. One of my favorite fights of the year, honestly, just because of everything that happened surrounding it. And Waldo Cortez Acosta walks away with the big knockout win over Ante Delija. And it was fucking awesome. And then turns around just a few weeks later to fight the GOAT, Shamil Gaziev. Knocks him out via KO punches round one. That was in the Qatar card, the Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker card. And yeah, Waldo Cortez Acosta knocking out the GOAT to end the year. Fucking insane. So Waldo Cortez Acosta had to make my top 10 best fighters of 2025 list. He's now scheduled to fight Derek Lewis, by the way, which is a very interesting fight. Looking forward to see who wins that one. That will be going down next week already on the first Paramount card. New era for the UFC 324. Can't wait for this fight. My number 9 is going to be Milky Costa. Milky Costa went 4-0 in the UFC in 2025. Opened up with a big win over Andre Fili. Got a guillotine win in the first round over Andre Fili. Very solid performance by him over the UFC veteran and Andre Fili. He then went on to win a decision over Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez, who was on his way up to looking like he was going to be a top 15 kind of guy at Christian Rodriguez. He was looking very good leading up to this fight, and Milky Costa put a stop to that. He then went on to have a fight of the night. In my opinion, spoilers, this will be on my top 10 fights of the year. Milky Costa versus Julian Erosa. Milky Costa wins a decision win over Julian Erosa in a fantastic fight, one fight of the night. And I absolutely love this fight. If you go back and watch it, it's a very impressive performance by Milky Costa. I believe he won all 3 rounds, but it's still a fantastic back and forth brawl type fight, in which Milky Costa looked very impressive. And then to end the year, Milky Costa got a big head kick KO win over Morgan Cherie. Absolutely flatline Morgan Cherie, who is a former kickboxer, by the way. So very impressive for Milky Costa to be able to do that. Looking forward to big things for Milky Costa in 2026. He's already scheduled to fight Dan Ige sometime in March, and that will be his chance to get into the rankings here. If he's not already ranked, I'm not entirely sure. But if he's able to get a win over Dan Ige, man, big things ahead for this guy. I mean, look forward to him in 2026 fighting top 10 opponents. I'd imagine big names. So I kind of think Milky Costa will become more of a household name in 2026, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he's able to do in the rest of his career. My number 8 is going to go to Walter Walker. Walter Walker, the heel hook master here. Got 3 heel hook wins in the first round in 2025. Had to make my top 10 best fighters of 2025 list. And becoming a fan favorite slowly but surely here, much like his brother. He started off with a submission win over Natal Mays. Of course, like I said, they're all heel hooks. So, these guys just can't avoid it. He's got 4 of these in a row, actually. There was one in 2024 over Junior Tafa. And then he continues on in 2025. Natal Mays, like I was saying. We then move on to Kennedy Nzechukwu, who got a heel hook win over him in the first round. back in July 2025, and then to end the year in October 25, he got a submission heel hook win over Louis Sutherland. On a just a very impressive thing to do, kind of becoming his trademark thing here is to get these heel hooks, which is very hard to do, right? I'd imagine as he gets higher and higher up in these rankings, it's going to be even harder to do. Guys are going to pick up on what he's doing here. Guys are going to learn how to defend it, how to defend his technique with it specifically. And so I'd imagine, I don't know. I don't know if we've seen the end of the heel hooks here, but his next one, he's fighting Marcin Tybura next in March. So fellow grappler Marcin Tybura as well. So I'd imagine Marcin Tybura is going to be a little too smart to get caught in one of these heel hooks. He's gonna have his submission defense on point. Marcin Tybura, like I was saying, a good grappler in his own right. So I don't think he's gonna be able to continue the streak here. But if he is, man, I mean, look out. He might be in my top 5 for fighters in 2026. Who knows? My number 7 is Michael Morales. Now, this is the fighter I was talking about with Ian Gary, where you could make a strong argument that Ian Gary should be above Michael Morales. I don't think he is because Michael Morales got 2 finishes in the first round in 2025. He started off with his first ever UFC main event at the Apex in a fight against Gilbert Burns, which he knocked him out in round 1. I know what you're thinking. Gilbert Burns is kind of washed, so this really isn't that impressive of a win. I think it is still. I mean, a win over Gilbert Burns is still meaningful in this sport. Gilbert Burns used to be one of the very best welterweights in the world, and so it's still got to count for something. Michael Morales absolutely dominated Burns very easily, just kind of walked him down and walked through him, as he did to Sean Brady as well. And this is the one that's really impressive to me. This might be the most impressive welterweight win of the year. And yeah, I'm even considering Islam versus JDM in that. Although I guess I don't know. We'll talk about that later, I suppose. But anyways, Mike Morales definitely looking more and more impressive as his career keeps going here. Looking unstoppable, looking like he might be the guy to beat Islam Makhachev. Who knows, man? This guy's just so young. I mean, he's 26 years old. Already in the top 5 of the UFC welterweight division. He'll be knocking on the door for a title shot in 2026. We will see. I don't know how this is exactly going to play out. I mean, I got a feeling that they're going to end up booking Islam Makhachev versus Kamaru Usman, which would suck. So I'd imagine we might end up actually seeing Michael Morales versus Ian Gary, and that will kind of settle the debate for me of which fighter is better here. So nonetheless, Michael Morales, though, has looked very impressive in 2025, and I am very much looking forward to seeing what he can do in 2026. My number 6 is going to go to Yuri Prohaska. Didn't win a belt or anything in 2025, but damn, he had some fun fights. His first fight against Jamal Hill on the first UFC pay-per-view of the year was a fight of the year contender. Awesome back and forth fight, and Yuri Prohaska ends up knocking him out in the 3rd round. Looks awesome. Yuri Prohaska just doing Yuri Prohaska things and putting on the most exciting fights we've all ever seen. I mean, Yuri Prohaska, can you name a more exciting fighter than Yuri right now? You really can't. I mean, it's like him and Justin Gaethje are neck and neck for guys that just every time you turn them on, it's just must watch television. It is so fucking entertaining watching these guys fight. Continuing on then, in October 2025, he fought Cleo Roundtree, in which he also knocked him out in the 3rd round in another back and forth brawl. In a fight, I actually had him down on the scorecards. I think the judges might have too, going into round 3 on both rounds. And so he had to get it done. He had to get Cleo Roundtree out of there, and he does just that. Looks damn impressive doing it, and absolutely flatline Cleo Roundtree in another fight of the year contender. And yeah, what more can I say about Yuri Prohaska? Just your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. Yuri Prohaska is the most exciting guy in the UFC right now. My number 5 is going to go to Benoit Saint Denis, BSD. Really good comeback year for Benoit Saint Denis. Started off the year with that win over Kyle, whatever that guy's name is, Kyle something. He beat him on the pay-per-view in May in Canada. Got a submission win over him. This was a short notice fight. I forget who BSD was originally supposed to fight on this card. Might have been Ruffy. I can't remember exactly. Daryush, maybe? I don't know. Those are the 2 guys he ends up fighting, though. Nonetheless, gets a big comeback win over him. The comeback win that he needed after having a rough 2024. in which he lost twice. He lost to Dustin Poirier and Renato Moicano in that year. So he needed a big bounce back year here. And then he really gets going with some big names. He fights Mauricio Ruffi on the UFC Paris card for 2025 and submits him in the second round. Looks absolutely dominant while he does it as well. Going into this fight, I think a lot of us were picking Ruffy to win, myself included. I underestimated BSD's skill level at this point and his grappling level, and looked absolutely dominant in that fight. And then to end the year, he knocks out Beneil Dariush in a matter of seconds on the UFC MSG card for 2025, and cracks himself right into the top 10. Might even be close to the top 5 right now. I'm not even entirely sure. Has a giant fight against Dan Hooker now on one of the first cards in 2026. That's going down in Australia in just a couple weeks here. So we will see if BSD is able to keep it going here and have a big 2026. But nonetheless, had an awesome 25. Feel really good for BSD because he had such a hard year in 2024. And yeah, gonna be one of these lightweights I think we're gonna be talking about for a long time. He kind of cemented his spot in the top 10 of UFC lightweights this year. So very good for Benoit Saint Denis. Let's get into the champions now, guys. My number 4 is gonna be Peter Yan. Had 2 fights in 2025. His first win was over Marcus McGee back in July in Abu Dhabi. Very fun fight. Marcus McGee, I actually thought Marcus McGee looked pretty great in this fight as well. Put up an excellent fight, but not enough to get it done against Peter Yan. Peter Yan looked great in this fight. Classic kickboxing style that he has. Able to utilize his trips as well and just get the job done by decision. And then he wins the belt against Merab Dvalishvili, who we will talk about in a little bit. But Peter Yan put it on probably the most impressive performance of the year, I would say, against Merab Dvalishvili. I mean, going into this fight, we all were really giving Peter Yan very little chance of winning this fight. Has a loss to Merab Dvalishvili before, in which he got absolutely dominated in that fight. And so you knew if he was going to come in here and be able to beat Merab, especially if I told you he beat Merab by decision, it was like, okay, he would have to put together the perfect game plan to do that. And him and his team did just that, and he executed it just perfectly, did Peter Yan, and looked great doing it. Had a very fun fight as well in the second Merab fight. And yeah, most impressive performance of the year in my book. So Peter Yan gets my number 4 spot, becomes the UFC Bantamweight champion. Big things ahead for him in 2026. We will see what exactly is going to happen. I'm guessing they're going to hold him for the White House card, and if Sean O'Malley is successful in beating Sonny Dawn, we will see Peter Yan versus Sean O'Malley 2 at the White House. That's kind of the direction I think they will go, and I will be super fucking hyped for that if that ends up being what happens. My number 3, Joshua Van. Joshua Van, huge year for this kid. I mean, going from a relatively unknown guy, I would say, especially to the casual MMA fan base, to a UFC flyweight champion by the end of the year is super impressive. Started off the year with a win over, who was this guy? Rai Tesora, who hasn't fought since, I don't think, but this guy was undefeated heading into this fight. This went down back at UFC 313. Joshua Van looked very impressive in this fight. Got the decision win. He then knocked out Bruno Silva in the third round at UFC 316 back in June, which earned him just giant things here. Huge performance for him here. I believe this was on the main card, so he was making his main card debut here on a pay-per-view as well. We then move on to Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval, which was a fight of the year contender, if not most people's fight of the year, I would say. Awesome fight versus Brandon Royval. Back and forth brawl. I believe this set records for like most significant strikes landed in a 3-round fight. It might even beat a lot of 5-round fights. I mean, certainly beats a lot of 5-round fights, but I know in a 3-round fight, this set the record for most significant strikes, and that kind of tells you all you need to know about this fight. So fantastic fight, fantastic performance for Joshua Van. And then later he captures UFC gold in a unceremoniously way against Alejandro Pantoja. Alejandro Pantoja, if you don't know by now, dislocated his elbow or broke his elbow. Still not entirely sure what happened here. in this fight, but nonetheless, Joshua Van wins by technicality because Alejandro Pantoja could no longer fight after breaking his elbow after posting on it. Uh, and good for him, man. You know, I know a lot of people. It kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Joshua Van celebrated after this win. But hey man, you work your whole life to do something and you finally achieve it, whether it's by some guy getting injured, some guy slipping on the banana peel and just getting injured and you getting a lucky win or whatever, doesn't really matter, man. At the end of the day, Joshua Van is now the UFC flyweight champion. So celebrate all you want. Big things ahead for him in 2026. We will see if we get the Alejandro Pantoja rematch. My bet is they're going to set up Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira for some time in the first half of 2026, and then winner of that will fight Pantoja sometime in the back half of 2026. That's what I think will happen. So we'll see. Maybe Joshua Van ends up being fight of the year 2026. I mean, if he stays as active as he was on his way up, and defends the belt 3 or 4 times in a single year, he will certainly be in the running for best fighter 2026. My number two, Merab Dvalishvili. A lot of people's fighter of the year can't give him it because of the loss, I think. But we will get there. His first win, of course, against Umar Nurmagomedov back in the first UFC pay-per-view, UFC 311 in January. Super impressive win. I mean, this is his most impressive win this year in my book. Umar Nurmagomedov, who I rate super highly, was an undefeated prospect heading into this fight. Merab, I kind of thought he would be the kryptonite for Merab. I thought he'd be able to defend the takedowns and get takedowns of his own at some point and put a lot of pressure on when they're striking. And Merab just said, fuck no, we're not doing all that. And Merab did Merab things, put a lot of pressure on him in the last 3 rounds, and ends up kind of embarrassing Umar Nurmagomedov and defending the belt for the first time. We then continue on. He has his rematch with Sean O'Malley back in June of 2025, where he finishes Sean O'Malley this time. And this is what I would like to see more of from Merab. If continue on is more finishes. Let's get more submissions here. You're able to take all these guys down. Why not just submit them while you're down there? I know it's easier said than done, but nonetheless, very impressive win for Merab. And then another very impressive win for Merab against Corey Sandhagen back in October 2025, in which he almost got the TKO knockout in the second round here. Almost got Corey Sandhagen out of there, but probably his most dominant win of the year, I would say. Even though Corey Sandhagen, I gave a round or two in this fight, but wasn't as close as the Umar fight. Well, actually, Sean O'Malley was his most dominant. Scratch that entirely. Nonetheless, Corey Sandhagen put up a decent fight, but Merab pretty much dominated him from bell to bell. And then his last fight, we already talked about it a little bit here, against Peter Yan, in which he suffered a decision loss and lost his belt, which is why he's number two. I thought for sure Merab would be my number one, especially heading into this fight. I really wasn't giving Peter Yan much of a chance at all. And Merab Dvalishvili able to get it done. So, not get it done, excuse me. Peter Yan able to get it done and capture UFC bantamweight gold for the second time. Merab Dvalishvili suffers the loss here. Was it too much too soon for Merab? That's kind of the question I still have. Is was the fourth fight of the year just too much for him? Too much for the body? Was it too many training camps back to back to back? I would love to see Merab take some time off. I would love to not see him until, like, I don't know, definitely second half of the year, probably like August, September at the earliest is when I want to see Merab fight. And I would love to see him get a full training camp and just have a rematch with Peter Yan right away. I don't think that's the direction UFC will go. I think Merab will probably have to fight someone else before he gets another title shot. But nonetheless, I really want to see Peter Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili 3 after we give Merab a well-deserved rest, because he was super busy in 2025. So my number one, guys, is going to be Islam Makhachev. I have to give it to him. I have to put him over Merab, considering the loss Merab have. Islam Makhachev, start off with it, was supposed to fight Arman Tsarukyan earlier this year on the first UFC card of the year, the first UFC pay-per-view. That didn't end up happening. Arman Tsarukyan had to pull out due to back injury. Very late notice. In steps Renato Moicano. Islam Makhachev makes short work of Renato Moicano. Gets the submission win very quickly and very dominantly. Certainly, if this was Arman Sarukian and Islam Makhachev did anything similar to what he did to Renato Marcano to Arman Sarukian, he would be a lock for number one. But it being Renato Marcano, a guy who's just outside the top 10 of the UFC lightweight rankings, at least right now, it isn't the most impressive thing in the world, but it is impressive enough to me. And then he moves up to the welterweight division, vacates the UFC lightweight belt to fight Jack Della Maddalena, in which he absolutely dominates Jack Della Maddalena from bell to bell. Not the most exciting performance in the world, but Islam Makhachev was able to utilize his kicks a lot in this fight. He was able to utilize his wrestling, of course, hold Jack Della Maddalena down for a majority of the fight, and just kind of had his way with him for the whole time in this MSG card. One of the most dominant performances of the year. Put this and that Hamzat Chimaev versus DDP fight right next to each other. And both of those kind of, not the most entertaining things, but is what it is. Dominant performance, becomes the double champion in what I would say are the two most difficult weight classes to win a belt in MMA, is lightweight and welterweight. So I got to give it to him, man. I got to give him the number one spot just for that. Those are two extremely difficult weight classes to win titles in. Two extremely difficult weight classes to win, beat ranked opponents in. Two extremely stacked weight classes at that. So I have to give it to Islam Makhachev. We will see where he goes in 2026. I'm hoping for big things here. I really hope Islam can get 3 in this year. Like I see no reason why he couldn't. He didn't really have a scratch on him in the JDM fight, after the JDM fight. But if I had to imagine, we'll get 2 Islam fights this year, one against Usman, and then hopefully one against one of these surging contenders. I mean, there's so many guys that I really want to see Islam go up against in this welterweight division. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Gary, Michael Morales, just to name a few. And there's a lot more guys than that too. So he's got his work cut out for him in this welterweight division. But nonetheless, he is your 2025 fighter of the year, in my opinion. And that will do it, guys. Let me know who your fight of the year is in the year 2025. Let me know if you still consider Merab the fighter of the year in 2025. Like I was saying, it's just, that one loss just holds me back a little too much. I just think you can't have a loss and still be considered fight of the year, especially when Islam's capturing 2 belts. And that's just my opinion. I could debate it. I was back and forth on it for a little while. So I'm more than open to hearing opinions of why Merab should still be considered higher than Islam Makhachev. But nonetheless, Islam Makhachev, congrats to you. Who will be the fight of the year in 2026? I wonder. I mean, Joshua Van is set up to do big things. I don't know if he'll be able to get past Pantoja when they actually fight. If they actually fight this year at that. A lot of guys that could possibly get it. I mean, who knows? Pirion set up for big things this year. It's funny because heading into 2025, I think a lot of people would have been predicting Tom Aspinall, but he ended up only fighting once that year. So, yeah, who knows who will be the fighter of the year in 2026. That will do it for the video then, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, do all that fun shit. I'll see you in the next one.